Tonight in Saskatchewan, shock after police say a student set another student on fire at a high school.
This is not something that we ever expected.
A 15-year-old and a teacher sent to hospital, a 14-year-old arrested. The investigation into what happened. Jagmeet Singh says an early election is now possible, but refuses to say when.
We have ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau.
This as Liberals lose the man who would run their campaign. Our at-issue team on what is happening behind the scenes. And inside the controversial supermall opening in Montreal.
Well, so far I'm impressed because they have those brand names stores.
Will this bet on high-end luxury pay off?
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. We begin with a frightening scene at a high school in Saskatoon where police say a 15-year-old girl was seriously injured when she was set on fire by another student. The 14-year-old girl accused of sparking that fire was arrested immediately. The rest of the students were sent home, their high school locked down. Alexander Silberman now with how this chaotic scene unfolded, the state of the investigation, and why police say it could have been much worse.
A Saskatoon high school, now a crime scene.
It's so senseless. It's so needless.
Police say a 15-year-old girl was set on fire by another student. Shocking Curtis tweet, whose daughter also goes to the school.
You know, my kid was on the way to the cafeteria. You know, she was dawdling, she was behind, she was doing whatever. She could have been there. Like, my kid could have been there. And I don't see how this could have happened in the school.
Police say it happened shortly after noon and that an officer was already in the building for a different matter, allowing them to respond within a minute, arresting a 14-year-old girl. A teacher helped extinguish the flames.
The mood in our office right now is quite low, and there's some upset people, obviously, because this is not something that we ever expected and could really prepare for.
Police say the victim was taken to hospital after being treated for burns at the scene. The teacher was also injured while putting out the fire. Saskatoon Public Schools say due to the seriousness of the assault, classes were canceled this afternoon, and the school will remain closed on Friday. The division said in a statement it was a traumatic incident for the entire school community, and it will be providing support to students and staff. In a letter to families, the school's principal said the doors will remain open on Friday so students can talk to counselors. Saskatoon police did not give a motive. They say the investigation is now in the hands of a serious assault unit, and the 14-year-old remains in custody. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
In Vancouver, police have now charged the man who they say attacked two people at random, leaving one of them, a 70-year-old man, dead. Susanna De Silva now with what more we're learning tonight about the accused.
One day after a deadly, random attack, many in Vancouver are still on edge.
It's a little bit shocking, but also not that shocking considering perhaps, some of the incidents and, in the downtown area.
Really terrified, really unscared to go out.
A suspect is accused of severing a man's hand before killing another man, now identified as 7-year-old Francis David Laporte 10 minutes later. 34-year-old Brendan Colin McBride, now charged, facing 1 count of second-degree murder and 1 count of aggravated assault. A search of his criminal record shows 2 other assault charges, as well as a charge of assaulting a police officer. He received a conditional discharge for the most recent conviction and 18 months probation in April.
The guy's, doing kind of some weird stuff with his head, making some weird comments.
Matt Henry was walking with his pregnant wife in the area. McBride was arrested.
I think it was the one shoulder. It looked like there was either some, maybe some red marks or some blood, something was there. But we didn't expect this guy to have just, potentially stabbed somebody and hurt somebody.
Police have said McBride has a lengthy history of mental health-related incidents, an issue the province has struggled to deal with for decades, says this expert.
We're increasingly relying on our courts and corrections system to respond to problems associated with mental illness, including addictions.
Police have confirmed the surviving victim underwent surgery and had his hand reattached. As for McBride, he's due back in court September 18th. Susanna Da Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
Police in Ontario have released new video of a home invasion north of Toronto. So home security footage captures the moment a group of armed men wearing masks broke through the front door. Once inside, they threatened the residents at gunpoint while demanding money and searching for valuables. 3 adults and a child were home at the time, but nobody was hurt. Police believe the home was targeted rather than a random attack. They are now searching for multiple suspects. And now to the new fallout and the new reality in Canadian politics. A day after NDP leader Jagmeet Singh ended his deal to support the Liberals, he faced questions for the first time. A day after, in his words, ripping up the agreement that propped up the minority government for years, Singh again presented himself as the alternative to both Justin Trudeau and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. Any confidence motion can now bring the government down if the NDP polls its supporting vote. But as Ashley Burke explained, Singh didn't say when that would happen or what would trigger it.
A day after dumping the Liberals, Jagmeet Singh's now jockeying to replace Justin Trudeau.
And when the next election comes, my friends, I am running to be the next Prime Minister of this country.
This polling aggregate shows if there was an election today, the Conservatives could win 42% of the popular vote. That's at the expense of the Liberals, which have trailed in the polls all year. And the NDP hasn't benefited. It's sitting in third place.
When folks are upset with the red team, they then start looking at the blue team.
So Singh came out swinging against the blue team, trying to distance himself from the Liberals and position himself as the alternative to the Conservatives.
Everything Pierre Poilievre does is designed to take from you and give to the ultra-wealthy.
Singh stayed on his message track, repeating it more than a dozen times.
We've ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau. We have absolutely ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau, and that means an election is more likely. We have ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau. The agreement is done.
But despite repeated questions, he wouldn't say once if he'd bring down the government in a confidence vote.
I will look at any vote that comes before us, and we will make a decision in the best interest of Canadians, as any minority government normally operates.
And people know that. They remember what Conservatives do.
This all unfolding during 2 fierce by-election campaigns.
And who is ready to elect common sense Conservative Colin Reynolds in Elmwood, Transcona?
The NDP's trying to hold on to a seat in Manitoba and pick up another in Montreal. Now the party's in the spotlight.
And it allows them to go to voters in those ridings in particular and say, look, we aren't propping up the unpopular Liberals. You can vote for us and get something different.
Without clarity from Singh about if and when he'd trigger an election, the Liberals say it's not their priority.
Right now they're focused on politics. We're focused on Canadians.
But Adrian, this does put Trudeau's government on shakier ground.
Indeed, and actually, it now seems that the NDP has actually been planning this move for some time.
Singh told CBC's Power and Politics that the online video announcing his big breakup with the Liberals was recorded close to a month ago, and that he expected more from the Liberals to bring down grocery prices and not impose binding arbitration on rail workers. Singh also said that he didn't pick up the phone and give Justin Trudeau notice that the deal was over because he didn't want Trudeau to try and talk him out of it.
Interesting. All right, Ashley Burke in Ottawa. All right, so let's bring in Chief Political Correspondent Rosie Barton. So, Rosie, you listened to Singh today. What struck you?
I mean, I think we can say it's not entirely clear what the next steps are for the NDP. Beyond Singh saying that the government hasn't been responsive to some of the needs of Canadians, he's unwilling to say what the party will do when it comes to policies that have been started but not completed under the agreement. Pharmacare would be one, long-term care standards another. So will he help those policies get across the finish line or no? And part of the reason the answers were perhaps so unsatisfying today is that the motivating factor behind ending this deal is not really about policy. policies or solutions. It's about politics. And it's hard to explain your next step to Canadians when it's really driven by hoping that distancing yourself from an unpopular government will help you.
Okay, so then as there's this possibility of an early election, along comes a new blow, right, tonight for the Liberal campaign.
Yeah, Jeremy Broadhurst, probably not a common name for Canadians, is the national director of the Liberal campaign. At least he will be until the end of the month. He says he's leaving because he doesn't believe he has the energy needed for it. But this is a really key role, the person who makes sure there are candidates and ridings prepared to campaign, a policy book. And his leaving is worrying for some of the Liberals I spoke to today, who now see that this possibility, as you say, of an earlier election is not good, and that they are a party that runs the risk of not being prepared. That, and then all these other challenges, will undoubtedly be a big part of the conversation at Liberal caucus next week, Adrienne.
All right, we'll be watching. Rosie, thank you.
Thanks.
And Rosie will be back alongside the Ad Issue team to break down where this could go next in about 20 minutes. The U.S. Department of Justice has accused a Canadian-owned company of involvement in a Russian scheme to influence the American public. Evan Dyer lays out the allegations that a Canadian-born influencer paid online pundits and concealed the Kremlin origin of the cash.
One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine.
Influencers like Tim Pool, who worked with Tenet Media, were clear about who they didn't like and about who they did.
Trump, remember what they've done to you. Remember what they were trying to do to you. And please, please destroy these people once you get into office.
A U.S. federal indictment says those opinions were bought and paid for by the Kremlin, which funneled $10 million, in part through Roaming Millennial, a Quebec company belonging to Canadian influencer Lauren Chen and her husband Liam Donovan, who then used her Tennessee company, Tenet Media, to pay MAGA influencers like Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, and Canadian Lauren Southern to spread the Kremlin's pro-Trump, anti-Ukraine messages.
We have not seen an adversary attempt to influence an American election to this degree ever before.
This former FBI director of counterintelligence says the Russian president will be infuriated to see this operation rolled up.
The message the U.S. government is sending with these indictments is, we see you, we're on to you, and we're going to call this out.
The indictment says the influencers were paid up to $100,000 per video. Some have since declared themselves victims of the scheme who had no idea the money came from Russia. Previously anti-Ukraine Tim Pool even put a Ukrainian flag in his bio. But owners Chen and Donovan allegedly billed the Russians directly. CBC News reached out to Chen, but she declined to comment.
The charging documents make it quite clear that they knew who they were dealing with.
So far, though, the FBI has charged only Russians, not the Canadians and Americans. The two main messages Tenet Media was allegedly paid to propagate were vote for Trump and defund Ukraine. But there was also a general directive to stoke anger around immigration, inflation, to say the country was broken and headed for a civil conflict, anything that would weaken national unity and drag America down. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
An Olympic marathon runner from Uganda has died after a brutal attack. Police say she was set on fire by a man believed to be her boyfriend. Sarah Levitt tells us she's one of several female athletes who've been murdered, their partners, the suspects.
She'd just made her big Olympic debut. 33-year-old Rebecca Cheptegei, already a Ugandan marathon record holder and a prolific athlete.
My first time also to win the gold medal. Since I ran, I'm so happy.
Cheptegei had bought land in Kenya closer to elite training centers, eager to continue her work.
It's my sad duty to inform you of the passing of Rebecca.
Cheptegei was attacked outside her home on Sunday. Kenyan police say she was doused in gas and set on fire, allegedly by a man believed to be her boyfriend. He's in hospital with burns, and police say an investigation is ongoing. She was a good child, her mother says, overcome with emotion. Cheptegei herself, a mother of two.
We were with her in Paris.
This fellow marathon runner has lost a friend.
We are still in shock and we are in pain. We remember the case of Agnes Tirop.
Agnes Tirop, a Kenyan long-distance runner who competed at the Tokyo Olympics. She was killed in 2021, stabbed to death. Her husband was charged with murder. That case is ongoing. 6 months later, another Kenyan runner, Damaris Muthi Mutua, was strangled to death. Police named her boyfriend as the main suspect and believe he fled the country.
This is not just a ticking time bomb, it's an actual bomb.
Activists say Cheptege's death highlights the ongoing issue of gender-based violence in Kenya.
If we don't act upon something, what are the repercussions when these women are killed?
I've lost the one we depended on, says Cheptege's father, and her 2 daughters are left without a mom. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
Another murdered woman, a doctor, is being mourned tonight in India. Her killing sparked huge protests in India about gender-based violence. And tonight, her parents are speaking out to our South Asia correspondent, Salima Shivji.
The protests have been a constant over the last 4 weeks. This one in Kolkata Wednesday particularly large. Thousands take to the streets demanding one thing. For the victim, a 31-year-old trainee doctor, raped and murdered while resting during a long shift at the public hospital where she worked. Those gathered here break out into prayer, hoping for some peace for the victim's family. Their faces can't be shown to protect her identity, but her parents spoke to us through tears. We start the day crying and we end it the same way, her father says. It's awful. Our little girl's dreams to be a doctor were brutally shattered that night. He says there may be a lot of cops on guard now. And there has been one arrest of a police volunteer who worked at the hospital. But the victim's father is convinced police tried to suppress the case at first, unwilling to investigate. He alleges they even offered the family money, a charge police have yet to respond to. The latest Supreme Court hearing for an update into the investigation may have been postponed, but the victim's family says they trust the court will get answers. They say they need to cling on to hope for justice. But outside the hospital where the victim worked, there's more anger than hope, along with deep fears about safety among the victim's female colleagues.
We do not see any improvement in terms of security or infrastructure as of now. It's been a month, but still.
This hospital is supposed to be a safe zone for us after our zones. So, yes, I think it's a very difficult situation to cope up with. While they say little is done to dispel the fear of sexual violence against women in India. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
The federal government pledged to make school buses electric, while the company that makes them says that's not happening.
There's nothing worse than announcing a program and not deploying it.
How red tape could be stalling the plan to go green. A new luxury mall has opened in Montreal, but its location has sparked some controversy.
This area is one of the worst in Canada.
And a dog, missing for years, is returned home.
And I opened the back of the trunk, and his tail was wagging.
We're back in 2. In Paris, Quebec's Aurélie Rivard swam to the top of the podium in the 400-meter freestyle. So challenging, she says she was ready to pull out up to 10 minutes before it even started. Instead, she will come home with her 3rd consecutive Paralympic gold in the event. And Brent Lakatos of Dorval, Quebec, pulled into the lead in his 800-meter event. The reigning world champion came to Paris off a serious injury, but in the end, Lakatos takes home Paralympic gold. Well, concerns are being raised tonight about a promise by the Liberal government to convert Canadian buses to electric. Ottawa pledged billions of dollars 3 years ago to make the switch, but critics say very little of that money is making it to school buses. Janice McGregor explains.
The first difference? How this bus sounds.
So the only thing you will hear are the wheels on the ground.
But CEO Marc Bédard's factory north of Montreal is also quieter than he'd like after 700 layoffs forced, he says, by federal red tape.
We have a lot of operators that want to electrify their fleet right now, and today they are waiting for an approval. There's nothing worse than announcing a program and not deploying it.
Electric school buses save money over the long run, but initially they're double the cost. Bedard expected federal subsidies to help build about 500 of his buses each year, but approval for just the first 200 took 2.5 years.
Demand is growing, and it's growing fast.
Provincial policies plus a rebate put about 1,000 e-buses on Quebec roads. But elsewhere, slow federal approvals stalled plans. Take Prince Edward Island. Without money for 200 more electric buses, it had to buy 30 new diesel replacements.
You'll see all kinds of jurisdictions that are planning the switch to electric buses that are kind of in limbo while they wait for this funding.
One reason for the holdup? Competition from municipalities who want this money to buy buses for public transit.
We traditionally don't, in federal politics, develop programs designed for provincial education systems.
But environmentalists point out school buses are public transit too, and those stinky diesel fumes, they're toxic.
There are more diesel fumes inside the bus than outside the bus, so it's really having an impact on our kids, and we need to be prioritizing those buses.
Some kids spend more time on school buses than adults do on public transit, especially in rural Canada. But right now, the politics of electrifying urban transit may be winning out. Janice McGregor, CBC News, Ottawa.
A controversial new mall in Montreal has opened its doors, but what's inside will cost you.
We're seeing them shop luxury more and more.
How shoppers are affording the high-end brands. And Rosie's here with that issue. Hello, you.
Hi, Adrian. Tonight we're going to talk about Jagmeet Singh's decision to end his party's deal with the Liberals.
Trudeau's Liberals can't deliver change.
So where does that leave the Liberals? Where does it leave Singh? Chantal, Althea, and Andrew join me to talk about that and more.
TIFF is off to a blistering start with Choir leading hundreds of Tragically Hip fans through some of the band's biggest tracks. The sing-along got going right after the world premiere of the Tragically Hip, No Dress Rehearsal, a 4-part documentary on how 5 kids from Kingston, Ontario came together to form one of Canada's most iconic bands.
I think people will learn a little bit more about us, being in a band isn't all what you see on stage. Probably not the whole story, but it's all we could remember.
The Hip documentary features never-before-published archival footage, along with new interviews with surviving members and celebrity fans. As for TIFF, it runs until September the 15th. It will feature well over 250 films. Well, there's a major change tonight in corner stores across Ontario where you can now buy alcohol.
There shouldn't be a reason why it should all be congregated in one place necessarily, or monopolized for that matter.
I think as long as it's done responsibly and it's regulated and it's not the wild, wild west.
More than 4,000 convenience stores across the province are now licensed to sell beer, wine, and ready-made cocktails from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. The province fast-tracked a promise to modernize alcohol sales by more than a year. The move will cost it $225 million in order to get out of a contract with the beer store. Well, the stores at a brand new shopping mall in Montreal are now open. This after years of planning and controversy. Alison Northcott takes us inside.
After years of planning, Royalmount is open to shoppers.
A lot of the luxury stores that we usually shop in New York or in Miami, and now we could come right here in Montreal.
Maybe it's just because it's new, but it's kind of refreshing.
Pairing high-end brands like Gucci and Louis Vuitton with more affordable stores, the mall also has restaurants, a green space, and art installations.
It's really more about the experiences than it is about the products and the goods.
It's a sign of a growing appetite for luxury and in-person shopping, says this retail advisor.
We are seeing a younger generation, Gen Z, of course, and anyone that has a disposable income. We're seeing them shop luxury more and more.
The mall's developer says even some teens are ready to spend.
I don't know where they get their money.
I don't know if they got side hustles. I don't know if they took their mother's vintage purse and sold it and took the cash and spent it. They're very industrious.
While shoppers inside were pleased, for some, getting to the mall was a challenge. It sits at the intersection of two major throughways.
This walkway passes over a busy Montreal highway connecting the mall to the nearest metro station. Royal Mount's location has been controversial around fears it will add more traffic to an already busy area.
This area is one of the worst in Canada. It's going to create congestion. So, of course, I'm inviting all Montrealers to go shopping, but use the metro.
These influencers both got stuck in traffic, but still promoted the shopping experience to followers.
Somewhere that's very modern, chic, like they want something that's visually appealing to the eye.
All of this is just phase one. The project is expected to grow with a planned movie theater, aquarium, and office tower to come. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
Now, let's break down the week in politics. Rosie's here with At Issue.
At issue tonight, Jagmeet Singh defends his decision to end his deal with the Liberals, but won't commit to bringing down the government.
In terms of any motion moving forward, we're going to look at that motion before we decide. We're not going to presuppose an outcome of that. But we have I have ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau. And I know that means that an election has now become more likely. We are ready to fight an election whenever that happens.
So what's to be made of the explanation that Singh gave today, and can the separation from the Liberals help the NDP in the polls? Hello there, I'm Rosemary Barton, here to break it down tonight. Chantal Hébert, Andrew Cohen, and Althea Raj for At Issue. Nice to see you back another day. This is our regular day, so we'll be back to our regular length. Althea, let's start with you tonight. What did you make of some of the explanation or attempted explaining that Singh gave today behind his decision to end this deal?
Well, he made it clear that he ripped up the agreement. He may have said that like 25 times.
It was 100 times,
there was
actually.
No
we
real
counted.
paper
We counted, yeah.
rip up. Look, he has to navigate a really tricky road. He probably wants to ensure that there is no repeat of 2005, where a lot of New Democrats are still upset that the NDP voted against stuff that Paul Martin had, like the Kelowna Accord, and ushered in a decade of Stephen Harper's rule. And so he doesn't want to go on some money bills that might include things that actually the NDP fought for in the spring. And there is still a drive, if you listen to some New Democrats, that they actually think they can push the Liberals further on things like pharmacare by being out of the agreement than being in the agreement. But the tricky part is when there is a pure non-confidence vote, how will the NDP vote? I don't see the NDP bringing forward a motion in the next few weeks or even few months. But the Bloc is on the record voting against the government. The Conservatives will probably use that as their opposition day. Where does that leave the NDP? And that is where the election timing, I think, lies. But as far as, you know, this weird rock, hard place thing, he's going to be dancing that dance for the next few weeks and months.
Well, and that's why I don't know if my expectations were too high, Andrew, but I thought that the framing or the explaining would be, I don't know,
better,
more complex than it was, to say the least.
Well, let's just be clear about what he's just announced. When he says, I've ripped up the agreement, what he's basically saying is, I've reneged on the agreement. I have gone back on my word, which was to support the government until June 2025. My signature is not worth anything. In politics, apparently, you can brag about that. In most walks of life, that would be viewed, I think, somewhat askance. But look, the agreement was essentially designed to buy them some time, to keep the wolves away from them, asking them, why are you supporting this government, or will you bring them down? It always came at the cost that they would be seen as being too close to the government, that the government would take credit for whatever they allegedly induced them to do. Both of those things have happened. Mostly the Liberals have done things they would have done anyway, and to the extent that they've done anything further, they're going to get more of the credit than the NDP has. So it was always a mixed bag for them, and it will be a mixed bag now that he has ripped up the agreement, which is to say nothing has really changed for them. People are going to come back to them now because they're the only ones, as Althea just said, they're the only ones who really are nervous about wanting to go into election. And let's be clear, not just nervous. They don't have the money. They've only got 58 candidates nominated. They're not ready to have an election anytime soon. So they're going to be going back into the pre-deal arrangement, which is every time there's a vote, every time there's a confidence vote, and there will be confidence votes coming up, they're going to have to hem and haw and stare at their feet and say, well, actually, we're going to support the government despite everything we've said about them.
Chantal.
There was a time in Stephen Harper's minority parliament when the Liberals kept MPs out of the House to make sure that the government didn't get defeated on a confidence issue. These things have happened. Humiliation comes in many forms for political leaders in minority parliament. And I've watched an opposition leader way back in Bill Davis's time vote against his own motion to ensure the survival of the government. So anything can happen. I think what we saw today is a narrative that lacks a rationale, a hook, you would call it, if you were writing a news story, i.e., I ripped the agreement, okay, but why today? Why not in June? What's the hook that justifies this? And it was opaque even to someone like Thomas Mulcair, who used to lead the party, and said, well, you know, corporate greed was never, or stopping it, was never part of the agreement. So that can't be a rationale for saying we're walking away from it. Luckily, possibly for Mr. Singh, there is another party that also holds the balance of power in Parliament, and that is the Bloc Québécois. And when he was asked on Radio-Canada a straight question, how would you vote if there's a non-confidence motion that basically says, we have lost confidence in the government, would you vote for it if the Conservatives go that route? And Yves-François Blanchet said, well, I'm not paid to dance to Mr. Poilievre's tune, so just out of thin air, suddenly I'll vote non-confidence. Not going to happen. And that will save probably the NDP a few times.
Yeah, there will have to be something that will motivate the bloc as well. It can't just be, as you say, because Pierre Poilievre says jump. But let's talk about whether, you know, there's anything good for the NDP here. We've talked about sort of the challenging parts of explaining this and what they, but is there any real benefit to this in the immediate, Althea?
Actually, I do think so. I mean, it's a difficult dance to explain to people because really the calculation is just crass partisan politics, and nobody wants to hear that, but that's the truth. But they need to uncouple themselves from the Liberals. The Conservatives have been really good at branding the NDP as being in bed with the Liberals. We hear over and over again the NDP-Liberal coalition, the NDP-Liberal government. And in order to distinguish themselves, they had to make this move. They were being written off as an option for change, and this is gearing up to be a change election. 86% of the country, according to Abacus data, says that they want change. And a lot of people are parking their vote at the moment, or at least with pollsters, with the Conservatives because they just want change, not because of some dear love-in with Pierre Poilievre. So Jagmeet Singh needs to capture those voters, and this is the way to do that. The other thing is it doesn't hurt that they're doing this in the lead up to 2 by-elections, especially the one in Manitoba, where distinguishing themselves from the Liberals is a good thing.
Andrew?
There's 2 things that are potentially positive for him. One is he's got trouble within his own party on this. He's come under increasing pressure from people who are really uncomfortable with this. I'm not entirely sure why he's not under more pressure anyway, since, you know, everyone in the Liberal Party, or lots of people in the Liberal Party, want Justin Trudeau to go because they're in such terrible shape. The NDP is not in great shape either. So he's in a tentative position and needs to shore that up. The other thing is potentially there's some leverage because the Liberal government is in a lot of trouble and may be willing to do some deals in the future. The trouble for them is the Liberals only need the support of either the Bloc or the NDP, or even conceivably, of course, the Conservatives, and they can play them off against each other. It's a relatively strong minority government in that they only need the support of one of the parties, or put another way, all 3 parties have to turn the key at the same time to bring the government down. So the leverage that any one of them has is attenuated by that the Liberals, if they don't get a deal from one of them, can go to the others.
Chantal?
Yes, we mentioned the last time the NDP brought down a friendly Liberal government, the government of Paul Martin. Despite the fact that it was actually the NDP back then with Jack Layton got to literally co-write a new federal budget. And still they voted down the Martin government and ushered in 10 years of Conservative rule. But what was different in the dynamics back then was the Bloc Québécois absolutely had to vote non-confidence because the big issue was the sponsorship issue, the sponsorship scandal. There's no such thing now that is binding Yves-François Blanchet to doing away with the Liberals, for one. 2, anti-Trudeau feelings don't run as high in Quebec as they do in the rest of the country. And the notion that Pierre Poilievre is a solution to fatigue is not really working out. So the Bloc has a lot more leeway to decide if it wants an election this fall or if it wants to do it alongside the budget than the NDP or even the Conservatives. Plus, I mean, the NDP has boots on the ground in provincial elections in BC and Saskatchewan. Those workers are busy getting governments re-elected or defeated. They're not available until the end of October at best for the Jagmeet Singh.
Okay, we're going to leave this part there, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the Liberals. We've been talking an awful lot about how this affects them, but they're headed into a caucus at the beginning of next week. So what will this mean? The dramatic changes on the political landscape, the departure of their campaign director just today. How will the Prime Minister convince his team they've got nothing to worry about? At issue, Liberal MPs are set to meet in British Columbia next week with bad polling, the end of their stable minority government, and the departure of their campaign chair. Will MPs call for a different direction? The Prime Minister says his focus is on Canadians.
Look, we're focused on delivering for Canadians. A big announcement on school foods. We've got more work to do in creating $10 a day childcare spaces across the country, moving forward on insulin, pharmacare. These are things that matter for Canadians.
So what can we expect from that caucus retreat? Will Trudeau be able to rally the troops? Here again to break that down, Chantal, Andrew, and Althea. Althea, I know you broke the story about Jeremy Broadhurst, but I'm not going to let you go first because he went first last time. Andrew, what kind of atmosphere do you think Justin Trudeau is walking into at the beginning of next week with these really big changes in terms of the landscape of politics?
Fevered, fearful, but also uncertain. They've had a summer after the beginning of the summer after that by-election loss in Toronto St. Paul's. You saw the beginnings of something resembling a caucus revolt, as small as it turned out to be. But people mostly said behind their hands and under cover of anonymity that the Prime Minister should go. I think one sitting MP actually said he should go. But it all fizzled out, partly because the Prime Minister refused to meet them and it kept them sort of isolated and alone rather than meeting all in one bunch. And since then, there's been essentially no movement whatever in the Prime Minister's office. There's been no change, no announcement of any significant changes in policy other than going back on a couple of their worst policy debacles, at least political debacles. But no changes in personnel, no cabinet shuffle, nobody moving in the Prime Minister's office. So the message from the Prime Minister's office has been everything's fine. We don't need to make much in the way of changes. Whether that will mollify the caucus, I don't know. But the problem they've got, which has not changed, is what's the alternative? You're close to an election. You don't really have anybody waiting in the wings who's an obvious alternative who can do better than the Prime Minister. This is the consequence when you essentially turned the party into a cult of personality in 2015, ran everything through the Prime Minister's office since then, marginalized or even kicked out, prominent ministers. What have you got left? You don't really have anybody, any heir apparent or even a strong bench of potential candidates. And so many of them may feel, as bad as the situation is, we might as well stick with him.
I mean, it does feel, Chantal, like the strategy to just stay the course is actually the strategy. Like it's not that they haven't thought of other things, it's that this is what they've decided on.
Possibly, but their plan for caucus or to prepare for a quieter caucus meeting held until 1 p.m. yesterday when Mr. Singh issued his I ripped up the agreement. Why? Because the message they'd been sending to caucus, one that they believed in apparently, in the cabinet and in the PMO, was time is still on our side. Yeah. We still have time to turn things around. The agreement with the NDP is safe until it comes to its expiry date in June, and we are putting everything in motion to be election ready. None of these propositions are still valid. And the danger to the government is that, yes, sure, you can stay the course. It is possible that many Liberals, and some of them have talked to me saying, does this mean we are, quote unquote, stuck with Trudeau in the next campaign for real? They may come to that conclusion, but they may also take the road to the exit that Mr. Broadhurst is taking, the campaign director, or even Pablo Rodriguez, the Quebec lieutenant, who is said to be days from announcing that he's going to be running to be the Quebec Liberal leader. So people at some point, absent a plan that looks like it will save some of the furniture, will just walk with their feet. Plus, you're less than a year from an election possibly now. You're losing your campaign director. You're losing your Quebec lieutenant. That sounds really ominous.
Yeah, and there are other names, and nothing that I've confirmed, so I won't repeat them, but I'm sure we've all heard other names of people that have interests in other jobs. And I certainly, Althea, after your story published, I heard from Liberals who were like mildly freaked out because now you don't know when an election is going to be and you don't have the guy who's supposed to put everything in place. Apparently those talks had been happening for a couple of weeks, so maybe there's someone waiting in the wings. But what do you make of what has to happen next week given all these things?
I hope that the Prime Minister's office is going to give caucus an idea of who's going to replace Jeremy Broadhurst. This is the National Campaign Director who announced several weeks ago now that he was quitting. And PMO has kind of been in a scramble trying to find who is going to replace him because he's the person in charge of what the platform is going to look like, the candidates, the ridings they're targeting, the advertising. So you no longer have anybody doing that. And from what I can tell from my calls and my research, they are not campaign ready at all. The difference this caucus meeting than last year's caucus meeting was last year's caucus meeting, there was a lot of anger about a cabinet shuffle that many felt squeezed out of, and they really wanted the government to change course, and they felt like speaking out and telling either the Prime Minister he needed to go or that there were things that needed to change, like the communications plan, that was going to lead to action. This time, we talked to MPs, it's like they're resigned to like nothing happening. There is not that palpitation that he needs to be shown the door because they're unsure now, the election timing, but also who would be best. And a lot of question marks around the war between Israel and Hamas, how that would play out in a potential leadership race and if it's going to fracture the party more. So there's a lot of nervous Nellies, but they are keeping their mouth shut.
Yeah. Andrew?
Just 2 points. One is the resignation of the National Campaign Director. I would be surprised if it did not have further reverberations. I can't think of a greater vote of no confidence in their prospects. This is a guy, we're a year away. He's only a year into the job and suddenly discovers he wants to spend more time with his family. I don't think anybody's going to credit that kind of explanation. So you're basically saying, I don't think we can win. So we'll see what the reverberations on that is. And maybe just to reinforce that point, when taking over the job or running for the job of Quebec Liberal leader is viewed as a step up in your prospects, things are not very good because, it's an entrepreneurial move. It's a courageous move for him, but it's not necessarily any kind of sure thing, needless to say.
30 seconds.
And consider this. For 3 weeks now, the Prime Minister's Quebec lieutenant has been giving scrums and making statements where he clearly says that he can't say that he's staying, and he is still in his job. Yeah. It is strange, and it says something about the weak position of the Prime Minister that he doesn't even dare say, well, if you're out, just, be
Off you
out.
go.
They want him to stick around as Quebec lieutenant until after that by-election on the 16th.
Apparently, though, he's not even that present in that by-election, too, from what I've heard on the ground. Okay. Thank you all. I'm so glad you're all back. I hope you're glad, too. Thank you for that. And now I'll send things back to Adrian in Toronto.
All right, Rosie, thank you. Next, a missing dog is back home 2 years later.
Hi. Do you remember me?
How the family got him back in our moment. Oh, look at him. That is Bear. Bear is a St. Bernard mixed, freshly groomed after being found filthy roaming the streets. So Bear's been missing for 2 years. His owner was pretty ecstatic and a bit surprised to get him back. Tonight, Bear's reunion makes our moment.
There's your mama.
I'm pretty positive he remembered me because he was just so happy, so excited. We were in Colorado. We were stationed there with military. He went missing the first year that we were there. He was at a dog sitter's when I went home, and a day later she had messaged me and said, hey, Bear opened the door. No idea why he took off. Could have been anxiety. We were there another 2 years. And then we moved here recently to New York. The admins of 719 Lost and Found Pets said, we found him. Linda was the one who got in touch with me. She sent me a picture that a bystander had taken. And so she's like, well, we're working to trap him. He's being fed. One of the ladies of the 719 Lost and Found Pets page transported him all the way from Colorado to New York for us. Then I opened the back of the trunk and his tail was wagging. He's doing really, really good. He's very loving. He's just really adjusting pretty well. I literally felt like I was in the dream, but it was very real.
And this was a very delicate process. So it took about a week and a half to trap him. And they did that. They figured out that his favorite food was apple and peanut butter, as you do. And so they finally lured him in. Took about another 2 weeks to care for him and get him home. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.